I'm Jo Stephenson. I'm one of the Sport Quest hosts. I'm also a fly tyer, and I'm continuing with these series of videos covering bonefish flies and what we feel are the most important flies to have in your box when you're off targeting bonefish. And today we're going to have a look at the Crazy Charlie, like I've got here in my voice. Arguably one of the most famous bonefish flies out there. I think it comes from the Bahamas, but it is used widely throughout the world where bonefish are found. It's a really simple fly to tie. You don't need many materials, so if you're new to fly tying, this is a pretty good one to start with. So I'll just go through some of the materials you need. So obviously hook choice is a really important thing, and any saltwater hook is fine. You can obviously try a few different ones, whichever work for you is absolutely fine. I'm not saying you have to use any specific hook at all, but I'll just go through some of the ones that I prefer. So my two favourite types are the Sprite saltwater hook. I've got it in size 6 here. Size 4 is also a good shout as well. Also, I tend to use a lot of the partridge sea prints, and this is a nice little hook. They come in black rather than silver, and there are some places around the world that don't, the guides don't like black hooks, but I can tell you I've caught plenty of bonefish on black hooks, so I don't know how many more I've caught on silver, but it's wise to have both colours in your box. Another one of the newer partridge hooks out at the moment is the CS120, the wide gape. Really nice little hook with an offset point. It's got obviously a wide gape, as the name suggests, but it has a slightly shorter shank to tie your materials on, but it's a nice little hook. But for this little guy, I'm going to choose to use the Sprite number 6, just for ease of putting it in the vise, really. Okay, so other things you're going to need, very important to have some form of weight for this fly, and mostly some bead chain eyes are used. You can use any dumbbell eyes depending on the depth of water you're fishing. If you know you're going to be fishing deeper water and you want to get your fly down there, you might want to have something slightly heavier, but again, wise to just have a range in your fly box. For the body, we're going to be using some vinyl, clear vinyl, or some mono. If you don't have any clear vinyl, either will do. I think originally it was tied with just mono. Also, a little bit of pearl tinsel is a good idea, but you can tie with or without. And for the wing, we need a bit of flash in that, and I'm going to use this pink crystal flash today. But any kind of UV flash will be fine, just to add a little bit of sparkle to it. And we're going to use a fur version here. I think the original was tied with 2 white feathers, and you can still buy them and still tie them if you wish, but we're going to do the hair wing variant, and we're going to use a little bit of calf tail for this particular one. If you prefer to work with synthetics, there are masses of different types you can use. We've got craft fur here, or Slinky Fibre H2O, all of these will be absolutely fine. These two obviously in tan. It's a good idea to have a range of colours as well. So plenty to think about there. Thread I'm going to use today is a pink nano silk, and it's quite nice to use a slight colour to this fly, because you'll see as you tie on your clear mono, the colour of the thread will actually show through that, so it gives this white-winged fly a slight pink tinge to it, which I find quite nice. So let's get tying. I'll shut up and stop talking and we'll get on. So let's start with a hook in the vise. Okay. So obviously get some thread onto the hook to start with. And the first thing we're going to do is put the eyes of the dumbbells on, and we need to kind of prepare our base for that. So you're going to go maybe a small way back from the eye, because you need to leave yourself a little bit of space to tie on your wing, etc, etc. So tie a little bubble, a little bump here, do one diagonal turn and then another little bump there, so you have this 2 bumps in which you're going to put your dumbbell eyes. So hold them up to the shank, one turn over and pull, and it should drop into that little divot you've created. Now we're going to do some either cross tie or what's known as figure of 8 tying. So we're going to go over, under the shank, up and over towards the other eye. So we're going to go over it like a cross. Okay, you see that? Okay, make sure it's nice and straight and give it a good tug. You can go say 5 one way, but always do the same amount coming the other way. That's quite solid there, but to make sure it's, I don't know, proofed a little bit so that the eyes aren't going to slip after so many casts or so many catches, what I tend to do is go around it. So you go over the shank, under the eye, up over the front of the shank and back under the eye, so you're kind of going around the eyes, and as you go around give it a bit of a tug. Okay, and what that's doing is it's bunching all those cross ties you've just done and pulling them all together and holding those eyes in place. If you want, you can pop a little bit of super glue on this bit now. I'm just going to wait. Flatten my thread out a bit. Okay, so we take the thread right to the bend, just beyond the tip, and then we're going to just quickly neaten up all the gaps we've made by going back to the eyes. Okay, first of all we're going to attach our piece of vinyl by butting that up right behind the eyes and attaching that in like so. And then before we tie back, we need to cut off a piece of our pearl tinsel, and we're going to do exactly the same, butt that up behind the eyes and catch that in as well. Okay, pulling them back, straight back, and touching turns, just tie that all the way. Make sure that rib doesn't slip around the side as it wants to. Take that all the way down to the bend again. I'm just going to flatten my thread, and we're going to take the thread all the way back up to the eyes, but this time we're going to go over in front of the eyes and take the thread kind of halfway, midpoint between the dumbbells and the eye of the hook. First of all, we're going to take the UV tinsel, so we're going to wrap that, making sure touching turns all the way up, and this is what's going to give it a pearlescent kind of glow, hence the pearl. When we get to the eyes, we're going to go over in a cross again, so over in a figure of 8 under and over the top, and then you're going to bring that forward and then put one tie over it, bring that up to the eye, and then pull that back straight with the hook shank, and then just catch this in, and that's just going to hold that all in place and make sure those end bits don't come undone. So trim off the excess. Okay, make sure this stays in the middle again, and this time we're going to bring the vinyl up, so again doing exactly the same thing, we're just going to wrap it around. It will slip at that back bit, so what I tend to do is just put the first wrap around the shank of the hook, and that kind of holds it all in place, and then carries on all the way up, making sure they're butting up against each other. Let's hope I've left myself enough space, let's hope I've cut off enough. So over the eyes of the hook again, I think I'll just have enough. There we are, and then again bringing that parallel to the shank and take one turn over it, hold it in, and then just carry on almost up to the eye, and then we're going to cut this one off before. We're not going to turn it back on itself like we did with the tinsel, just because that will put too much bulk in the nose of the fly. Okay, so that is the body done. If you want to put a little bit of varnish or something over this, then you can, but I'm happy to leave it as it is. So we're going to turn the fly over, and now we're going to put the wing on. So like I said, I'm using white calf tail, so cut yourself a little chunk of that off. Okay, like this. Then we are going to just tease out all the pieces from the base of the fur, all the fluff, and all the bits that are just a bit too short or not quite fitting in with how you want your wing to look. There we go. I like to kind of spin it between my fingers so I can tell what it's going to look like. Okay, so then off that up to the hook so you know where you're going to put it. Usually it's best to go beyond the hook point and kind of just over the end of the hook. So not as long as, say, if you had a tail, you're just going to kind of go just beyond the back of the hook there. So what we want to do now is make a neat head. So pinch that with your vice hand. And I like to, bless you, that's my cat sneezing. I like to now cut this off now and trim up so we know what size we're going for. Some people like to do it afterwards, but I find I really struggle to make it as neat as I like it to. So I like to trim off here. Make sure the thread isn't too long, but make sure that it's behind the eyes here on this side of the hook, but not at the eye of the hook, because you'll kind of slip off all the fibres. You want to have it back. So bring it up to the side, pinch between your thumb and forefinger, and then keeping it as tight as you can, slowly let go of it as you bring it down, and it will catch those fibres in like that. It's missed a couple, but we can catch them in for next time. There we go. Push them round, make sure they're all sitting nicely on top, and then put in your tight turns, tidy up all those bits and bring that right up to the eye of the hook. That'll keep your wing in place. So the final stage is to put some sparkle in. You could leave this off if you wanted, and again, it's always just good to have some of each, and depending how spooky the fish are, they may not want something too flashy that day. Okay, so just the one strand of crystal flash. What we're going to do is flip that under and on top of the hook. Okay, now using your fingers you can splay that apart on either side of the wing and then catch it down into the place you want it to be. So cut those as I've done here to be in line with the wing. Then all that's left to do is to whip finish and varnish. Simple as that. It's a very quick fly to tie and a really important one to have in the fly box. So where's my varnish? There it is. So a little bit of varnish just on the nose, and then once that's dry I would recommend just epoxying it if you can. If you have epoxy resin in your fly tying materials, just pop a little bit of epoxy over it just to kind of make it a little bit more durable on fishing. There we go. That's the Crazy Charlie. Enjoy.